It was in the land far away by the glassy sea and wooden cliff, where a wealthy man lived. He had everything his heart desired, but he had no child. For 9 years he prayed every single morning as the sun rose on his knees, begging God to bless him with a child. Finally, a son was born to him with 2 rosy cheeks, 2 shining stars in his eyes, but a constant cry on his tongue. Endless lamentation. The poor father waited for a whole year, and the child did not stop crying. No cooing, no singing, no rocking could satisfy him, and neither did the wisdom of the wisest midwives and the doctor's help. They waited for a 2nd and 3rd year, but the child could not be comforted, and there was no advice or help anywhere. One day, it occurred to the man to send as many messengers as there are months in a year in search of some help to all 4 corners of the world. So he sent 12 messengers on good horses, 3 in each direction, and he ordered them not to return until they found something that could bring a smile to his child's lips. The messengers set off to all 4 corners of the world, and the dear, tormented father waited at home, hoping they would bring back some good news. He did not have to wait long. On the 9th day, the 12 messengers returned, 3 from each side of the world. And when the first 3 stood before the Lord, he began to tell their tale. "We rode," they said, "and we asked everyone we met what could bring a smile to your child's lips, but for a long time in vain. Once we came to a river, and we pushed our horses to cross it. Then, from the other side, an old man called to us, bald head and a long gray beard. 'Stop,' he said, 'and do not dare to cross this river. I know well what you are seeking and what you are after.' 'Well, if you know, then tell us,' we said to him. And he replied, 'My children, nothing will bring a smile to your master's child's lips, neither singing nor rocking, neither night nor day. But if your master recites these words to him 3 times, "Do not cry, my son, I will give you a wife, conceived from dew, and born of 9 mothers," then the child will stop crying." That's what the old man said, and then he disappeared. We returned and brought you this news. The first 3 messengers left, and the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th group of 3 messengers each came forward and told the same story to the Lord. On all 4 sides of the world, the same river, the same old man, the same words. All this filled our tormented father with wonder and hope. So he went over to his son's cradle and spoke those words, "Do not cry, my son. I will give you a wife conceived from dew and born of 9 mothers." And behold, the child quieted down the first time, started cooing the 2nd time, and smiled the 3rd time, clapping his little hands. The father was overjoyed, and he did not forget to be grateful for his good fortune. Years passed and flowed away. The little crying boy grew until he became a handsome young man, 2 roses on his face, 2 shining stars in his eyes, and silver strings on his tongue. But as the son grew, the father aged, and he could see that he would not live much longer in this world. He wouldn't have cared to depart to the other world, but his son was still without a wife. Nothing was more important to him than marrying his son as soon as possible. "I am old, my son, old," he said to him one day. "One of these days I will close my eyes, but I would rather not die until I have you married. You are already 24 winters old, and there are plenty of beautiful girls around. Choose whichever one your heart desires." "Yes, father, yes," the son replied. "I have been waiting for these words from you. Do you remember what you promised me when I was still in the cradle? A wife conceived from dew and born of 9 mothers. Give me that, and I will marry immediately, but no one else will ever be my wife." The father was saddened by these words, as he had not expected this at all. He thought his son has long forgotten about it. He pleaded with him, offered him all sorts of women, but the son remained firm. He even said that he would not rest until he found such a wife himself and prepared to leave. When neither persuasion nor insistence could change his mind, the father finally let him go and blessed his journey. The young man took 2 friends with him, mounted their horses, and the 3 of them rode for 2 days and 2 nights without stopping. On the 3rd day, they arrived at a mountain range and, by evening, had lost their way in a narrow, deep valley. Steep slopes rose on both sides of the valley, making it impossible to leave. "By God's command," the young man said, "wherever we come through this valley. Let's find some place to spend the night." So, they continued walking until late at night, when they came across a wooden cottage. Inside the cottage lived an old witch. They entered, and one of them bowed and said, "May God bless you, dear mother." But there was no response. In the middle of the room was a fire with a bright flame, around which were 9 boiling cauldrons with 9 human heads inside them. The hunchbacked old woman peered into the cauldrons with eyes like fists, teeth like nails, hands like rakes, and in her hands she held a container with various herbs. "May God bless you, dear mother," the second one spoke, but again there was no acknowledgement. "May God bless you, dear mother," our young man said on his own. The old witch turned her crooked face towards them, and in a raspy voice replied, "May God bless you too, may God bless. Who are you, my children? But whoever you are, you need not tell me. You will go no further from here. I will skin you alive here and now." Our travelers were frightened, but a young man boldly replied, "Oh, not like that, dear mother, no. Have mercy on us and tell us where we can find a maiden, conceived from dew and born of 9 mothers." All right, the witch said. "And who is this maiden for? Tell me." So the young man told her everything from his childhood to the present moment. "He, my boy, he, the witch cackled. "It's strange, very strange, but it's precisely because it's strange, and because you've confided in me, I will grant you your life. I don't know anything about that young maiden, but take this wand. It will lead you to the Raven Peak, where my younger sister lives. Bow to her, as you bowed to me, and say, 'May God bless you, dear mother. I bring you greetings from your sister in the narrow valley. She will like you and won't harm you. She will tell you what she knows. You will spend the night here tonight, and in the morning you can continue.'" As soon as dawn broke, our travelers set off on their journey again, following the wand that guided them. They walked for 2 more days and nights, always following the wand's direction. On the 3rd day, a tall rocky mountain came into view, and around it there was a black circle like clouds. The closer they got, the darker it became, as if black clouds were gathering. They began to fear the approaching storm, but in the evening, as they reached the mountain, the clouds scattered in all directions, turning into black dots in the sky, and a terrible cawing filled the air. These were the ravens who had been circling around the old witch during the day and flew away at night. Now our travelers knew where they were, and they hurried to reach Raven's Peak. Here stood a wooden cottage. They entered it. The young man bowed and said, "May God bless you, dear mother. We bring greetings from your sister in Narrow Valley." "Welcome, my children, welcome. And what news do you bring from her? Has she cooked those 9 heads? And has she prepared from them that ointment, so that anyone who anoints themselves with it is never seen again? Well, sit down. And you, little wand, welcome too. Jump up onto the shelf next to your brother." And that moment, the wand leaped onto the shelf just as the witch had instructed. The witch's room was black and dingy. In the middle of the room tar bubbled, and 9 arms and 9 legs protruded from it. Hee, little hands, hee, little legs, boil away, boil. The witch cackled as she danced around the cauldron. But tell me, my dear children, what has brought you here? She suddenly turned to her guests. Here, the young man told her everything, where he was going and what he was seeking. I don't know, my boy. None of my ravens brought anything about this maiden. But it seems to me that my younger sister mentioned her once. Tomorrow, you will go to her at a hawk's beak. My wand will guide you. Tell her the same way you told me. May God bless you, dear mother. We bring greetings from your sister in Raven's Peak, and she will welcome you and tell you what to do next. The travelers rested for the night, and before dawn, the old woman woke them up and sent them on their way. They followed the wand again for 2 days and 2 nights, and on the 3rd day, Hawk's Peak appeared in the distance. They recognized it immediately from the circling hawks. They reached it by evening, dismounted their horses, and entered the wooden cottage. May God bless you, dear mother. We bring greetings from your sister in Raven's Peak. Welcome, my children, welcome, the old witch said. As my sister already cooked 9 arms and 9 legs. Well, let's see if she will prove that she can make the ointment that makes anyone who anoints themselves will fall in love with them. And you, little one, jump up to your brother on the shelf. The small dark room was stained with blood on the walls and the floor. In the middle of the room, 9 fires burned, and in them 9 human hearts boiled. Hee, little hearts, boil away, boil, she laughed. I'll make an ointment from you that will make anyone who anoints themselves irresistible. Now, my dear children, what has brought you here? The young man approached her and told her everything. Ha, my son. The witch smiled at him and caressed his cheek. You are handsome indeed. None of my hawks that bring me all news of the world ever told me about anyone as handsome as you. Even the one you're going to marry in 2 weeks isn't as beautiful as you. Your 2 servants will stay with me, and in the morning you will set out for the Rose Castle, where a maiden conceived from dew and born of 9 mothers resides. Here's a little trick. Shoot the first bird you see, take its heart, cut it open, and anoint yourself with its blood, and to become a bird like it was. Then, my son, my wand will lead your wings over mountains and valleys until you reach your maiden. She will let you into her room, and you will transform back into a handsome young man, just as you are now. And she will tell you what to do next. Early in the morning, our young man flew as a bird over mountains and valleys, following the wand until he reached the Rose Castle. There, the wand left him, and he circled all the peaks where the maiden might be sitting. Finally, he reached the highest one. There, in heavenly attire, sat the maiden with golden hair, snow-white cheeks, and lips like a rosebud. Tears like dewdrops kept falling from her eyes. As she saw the bird, one of her eyes cleared. "Oh," she said, "what a beautiful flower has flown to our sky. Indeed, nothing like this has ever been seen here. Maid, let it in." The maid opened the sky window, and a beautiful bird flew into the room. It immediately transformed back into the handsome young man, 2 roses on his face, 2 bright stars in his eyes, and silver strings on his tongue. "Now where did you come from, sir?" they both exclaimed, "for no living soul ever comes here." "I am here now," the young man replied, and told him everything from his childhood to how he had come here. "Oh, I am the unfortunate one," the maiden replied, "but I don't know how you'll be able to get me, and I don't know if you haven't come too late. After you've told me everything, I'll tell you where I came from. You see, I have a cursed father who is wandering somewhere in the world and can't find rest. My father swore long ago that he would never have children, but he got married anyway. So, with his first wife, when she was about to give birth, he cursed her so that her child would never come into this world. He did the same with his second and third wife, all the way to the nymph. But when the nymph was dying, she cursed him in return so that he would never die until his nymph wife gave birth to a daughter, and after his death, he would find no peace until the daughter was married. 100 years have passed since that time. My father has grown old, and there was no peace for him, and death would not come. He came to lament his sins every day at the graves of his 9 wives, where the 9 roses were blooming. Once, as he cried, he had a dream, and in the dream, his 9th wife came to him and said, "My wretched husband, you have mourned your sins, and I forgive you." The knight picked 9 roses from these graves, tied them into a single bouquet, and placed them onto the central grave. Kneel on the grave all night and pray to God. A dew will fall from the sky onto the roses, and by morning you will find a daughter instead. I am the daughter conceived from dew and born of 9 mothers. But my father is still burdened by another curse. He wanders the world and finds no peace until I am married. It was no one else but him who advised your father's messengers to promise me to you as a wife. But now, I don't know how you will rescue me. You see, I knew nothing about it, to whom I was promised, and that's why recently when a dragon came to me, I promised myself to him just to free my father. He is supposed to come for me in 2 weeks. Only one thing makes me happy, that just like with anyone else, I haven't fallen in love with him yet. But he mentioned that by that time, I must have fallen in love with him. Surely he knows about the ointment the witch is preparing on Hawkspeak, and if he gets it before you and comes to me, I must be his. Don't worry about that, said the young man. The witch likes me, and she will give me the ointment before she gives it to him. Oh, that would be wonderful, the maiden said. But how will you manage the journey? From here to Hawkspeak is 2-week journey, not to mention coming here afterwards. We will take care of that, replied the young man, and transformed into the bird, flying back to Hawkspeak. 13 days and 13 nights passed. The maiden in the rose castle still wept with one eye because the 14th day was approaching when she was supposed to fall in love with the dragon and marry him. The dragon was already flying towards the castle, and the maiden was trembling with fear. Suddenly, the bird knocked on the sky window, and she opened it, and in front of her stood a handsome young man with 2 roses on his face, 2 bright stars in his eyes, and silver strings on his tongue. Her second eye immediately cleared, and she fell in love with him, and he with her. At that moment, the dragon crashed into the door, and as soon as he saw that the young man was already there, he roared with venom and immediately dissolved into black tar. They left the rose castle and left it empty. As they descended, they saw an old man by 9 graves, bald head and long gray beard. "There you are," he said, "and you don't even look back at me." They turned around, and the 10th grave opened, and the old man sank into it, and the earth closed behind him. They went home to the young man's father. He couldn't be happier, called his guests, and celebrated a grand wedding for his son and the maiden conceived from dew and born of 9 mothers. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And also, maybe watch another, because that's how the algorithm works. Have a great day and thank you for stopping by.